Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you can catch the new spills every week. And don't forget to smack that bell up top so you can be part of the notification squad. Alright, so with a new Ragnarok trailer out, and it's slightly different from the other one. There's a couple new clips in there from the first trailer that we saw. But there's one part of this trailer that really stood out to me that nobody's talking about, and it has me questioning like every theory that's been thrown around from the first trailer. And that's this clip here of Firelord Surtur using the Twilight Sword against Thor. Like everything was the same till that happened. Well, mostly everything. There's a couple other new clips in the trailer too. But that's one of the main things that stood out to me, so I wanted to talk about it for a little bit. Alright, so as I mentioned, the sword is called the Twilight Sword. And I can already imagine they're going to find a different name for it in the movie, for obvious reasons. But in the comics, it's also referred to as the Sword of Doom. And this sword was literally part of the prophecy that Vala declared that Surtur would use in the destruction of Asgard. So in other words, it's literally his destiny to use this sword in the destruction of Asgard at the event of Ragnarok. And I wanted to shed some light on this specifically because Marvel kind of has this history of throwing us off with the trailers. Prime example would be like the first trailer of Captain America Civil War, where we've seen both of the heroes running up against each other, and in that footage there was no Spider-Man to be seen. But in the actual film, he's in this scene running to the left of Black Widow. And that wasn't because of negotiations or reshoots or anything. It was just a decision that they made to include in the trailer footage when they decided to show more Spider-Man closer to the film releasing. But I say that because of this. In this shot here where we see Asgard being destroyed by fire, it's almost like we're being led to believe that this is Hela's doing. And I don't mind that they do that with the trailers because I would much rather be kind of misled a little bit and then be surprised in the movie. It just gives for a better experience when something happens that you don't expect. But seeing Firelord Surtur using the Sword of Doom and the second trailer kind of confirms that he's not just going to have Hulk jumping at him at the end, but he's going to have a bit more involvement throughout the film. But one of the things that's extremely important about this sword is the origin of it. And not just that, but how the origin of the sword ties to Beta Ray Bill. Alright, so the Sword of Doom that Surtur is destined to destroy Asgard with at the event of Ragnarok, it was created in the Burning Galaxy, which is also the home of the Corbinites, who are Beta Ray's people. And I have another video that's more in depth about this story, and I'll leave a link down in the description. But when Surtur forged this sword in the heart of the Burning Galaxy, he destroyed Corbin, committing genocide among Beta Ray's people. And at this point, it's really tough to say if they'll go into all the detail of it, but it is interesting seeing another relic like this in the MCU that has strong ties to a character like Beta Ray Bill that we all want to see on the big screen. And so now the sword also has powers that tie into magic that I'll explain to you as well. And it possibly, just possibly, could be the reason we don't see much Doctor Strange in the trailers too, and we just happen to see Thor end up in chains in Muspelheim. But anyway, before I get all conspiracy theory on you, I'll go ahead and explain some of the sword's abilities. Alright, so first thing, this sword has a strong connection to magic. It amplifies its user's abilities, and it also protects the user from any attacks that are magic based. And this sword is meant to be ignited by the Eternal Flame. And I'm not 100% sure, I don't think they mentioned the Eternal Flame in any of the MCU movies just yet, but Odin did steal this from Surtur to prevent Ragnarok from happening before. And the prophecy says if Firelord Surtur gets a Twilight Sword to touch this flame, he'll have like crazy power and bring destruction to Asgard in the event of Ragnarok. But all we know as of right now, 2 months before the film comes out, is that this relic is sitting with many others in Odin's vault in Asgard, which is not too well guarded right now with Odin being gone. And I know you're probably thinking, well, the Destroyer will look after it. But if I do remember right, the Destroyer was destroyed back in the 2011 film. And I really hated that happened because I really like this character. And he wasn't done much justice in that first film because when he faced off with Thor, he gave him some problems. Yes, and I mean like what Hela did in the trailer, he did in the comics. And with the Destroyer out of the picture and Thor on Earth, this vault is literally for the taking. And so it's tough to say at this point if they're going to go a similar route to what they did in the comics. And instead of just having Surtur make his way directly to the vault, perhaps they'll take a different route where Firelord Surtur and Loki strike a deal. And the way things are lined up in the MCU, this could very well happen. Because like I said, Odin's out of the picture, Thor's on Earth, and though there's a lot of theories going around how Loki's just a terrible ruler and that's why everything's gone crazy in Asgard and how Hela got out, I think it's also quite possible, or just as possible, that Loki had a grand scheme in mind and either one little piece went wrong or his scheme is going completely right. And the devastation of Asgard is just something that happens to be a part of it. But if the sword does happen to go to Hela first, I'm sure it'll be brief just like it was in the comics. Because in that case, when she did have the sword for a short while, she gained crazy power that threw the 9 realms off of balance, but not too long after that, Thor had to take the sword back from her. And so now, as far as other abilities of the sword, it's able to cut through nearly anything the Fire Lord's surtur would swing it at. And that's physical objects as well as magical barriers and even walls between realities. And like, for example, when Loki struck that deal with Surtur and he borrowed the sword, claiming that he would free Surtur in return, it was really just a way of finessing Surtur so he can get the sword, go get the destroyer, and defeat the serpent that was threatening to destroy everything. But once again, there's no telling how much of that they'll actually include in the film. But just seeing this sword and knowing that it's going to be in the film, it opens up a lot of possibilities of what they can do with it in the MCU. Because as you already know, they don't go exactly by the books, they just kind of use it as a reference and mold a new telling of it. Or they create a new telling of the story using the comics as a reference, as James Gunn would say. But the next thing I want to mention, and this kind of goes into the line of Loki making these deals with either Fire-Lord Surtur or a deal with Hela. Because later on in like the Fear Itself series, I believe it was, but what happened was Loki died trying to defend Asgard from a threat that he orchestrated himself. But not too long before he died, he made an agreement with Hela, who is the goddess of Hell, and in this arrangement he asked that she would take him out of the Book of the Dead. This way, his soul would no longer be in the cycle of the death and rebirth of Asgard, because the fate of all Asgardians are tied to that prophecy. And this is exactly what Doctor Strange is talking about when he tells Thor that destiny has dire plans for you. And perhaps when Doctor Strange notices that it's changed, it may be something to do with Loki making a deal or something else, but that prophecy was originally said by Vala, who we see here in the purple. And there's a chance that Hela may even raise her from the dead like she did here in this panel. But yeah, those are just a few of my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And before I forget, somebody was asking me, how does Surtur get larger or smaller? Is there anything tied to that? And there's no telling how they'll do it in the film, but in the comics, the more he eats, the more he grows. And that'll probably be an explanation to why he's much larger later on in the film. Either that or he ate everybody in Asgard before he fought the Hulk. And I don't know if they're going to do all that because eating people might be a bit much for the audience that they're aiming for. But that's it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Fire-Lord Surtur will make it to the Eternal Flame and ignite the Twilight Sword? And if he does, how do you think they'll beat him? One way he was killed in the comics was when Mjolnir was combined with the Shadow Blade. But of course, you know, we ain't got no Mjolnir no more, so that ain't gonna happen. But I really want to hear some of you guys' ideas or thoughts. And I mean about everything. The sword and who else it ties to. Loki making his deals with either Surtur or Hela. How y'all think it's gonna go down at the end? I think the final face-offs will be between Thor and Hela, and then you'll have Hulk and Surtur fighting at the same time, and somewhere around there Odin will show up, who knows. What we gonna do is just focus on the sword and things tying to that for this one. All that other stuff we'll just figure out later when we see the movie, and everybody be happy. Alright, but y'all check out my other videos. I got one here where Thor becomes Allfather shortly after Odin's death, and him and Iron Man face off. Or you can check out my other videos explaining the origin of Beta Ray Bill, and I also do a breakdown of all the characters during the Grandmaster's Totem next to the Contest of Champions arena. But y'all be easy, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Alright, later.